The cardboard was already mangled when I wrestled it from the delivery guy, the label screaming its destination, return to sender. Satisfaction, cold and sharp, briefly cut through the anger. It was a pathetic victory, I knew, but the best I could manage. $300 worth of throw pillows, probably destined for the Pottery Barn catalog, now homeless. I scribbled the note. The pen digging into the cheap paper. Enjoy the apartment. Passive-aggressive? Absolutely. Mature? Not even close. But she blocked me everywhere else. What was I supposed to do? Send a singing telegram? Back in my apartment, the silence felt heavier. The adrenaline faded, leaving behind a hollow ache. 3 years. 3 years. And it ended with a block button and a pilfered Amazon account. How did I get here? It all started, as these things usually do, with a seemingly harmless swipe right. Sarah. Even the name felt like a brand I'd outgrown. Back then, though, it was different. She was vibrant. An artist, she'd called herself, flitting between photography and pottery. Always with a new project and perpetually broke. Independent, she declared on her Tinder profile. I should have seen the missing comma after that word. I was drawn to her supposed free spirit. A stark contrast to my own structured life as a software engineer. She wore thrift store finds like runway couture, and her apartment was a chaotic explosion of color. Looking back, the quirky aesthetic masked a deeper insecurity, a desperate need for validation that manifested in constant Instagram posts and a reliance on my credit card. It started subtly, with the "Can I borrow your card for this?" requests. Then came the bigger purchases, art supplies, online courses promising overnight fame, clothes for networking events. I raised an eyebrow, suggested a budget. That's when the clause came out. "You're being so controlling." She'd shriek, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm an artist. You don't understand the investment I need to make in myself." The argument always ended the same way. Me apologizing, her promising to be better, and another charge on my card. Looking back, it was a masterclass in manipulation, but at the time, I just wanted the piece to return. It set the tone for everything that followed. After the breakup, I was a mess, second-guessing everything. Was I controlling? Maybe I was just too rigid, too engineer-y. I called Mark and Dave, my usual sanity check. "Dude, she sounds like a textbook case," Mark said, launching into a rant about hypergamy and frame control. Dave chimed in with something about plate spinning and avoiding onitis. It was a barrage of red pill jargon I'd always dismissed as cynical internet garbage. "Come on, guys," I said. She wasn't that bad. Part of me wanted to defend her, to salvage some shred of dignity from the wreckage. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. I was changing my Amazon password, a belated attempt at digital security, when I saw it. Under your addresses, a new entry, Sarah Miller, followed by an address I didn't recognize. My blood ran cold. I clicked on it, the details confirming my suspicion. A newly leased apartment complex across town. The controlling accusation echoed in my head, a cruel joke. She blocked me, painted me as the villain, then casually used my account to furnish her new life. It wasn't just about the money, it was the audacity, the sheer contempt. That's when the seed of doubt Mark and Dave planted started to sprout. Part of me wanted to drive over there, confront her, demand an explanation. But what was the point? She'd just gaslight me, twist the narrative, and play the victim again. Besides, she blocked me on her phone. Showing up at her doorstep felt desperate. That's when the return to sender idea hit me. Petty? Definitely. Satisfying? Absolutely. It was a small act of rebellion, a way to reclaim some control without stooping to her level. It bought me a few hours of peace, a temporary reprieve from the swirling vortex of anger and confusion. But the real reckoning was still to come. My mind drifted back to that weekend in Napa. Sarah had convinced me to skip a crucial tech conference, one that could have landed me a senior position at Google, to reconnect with nature. The bill for that reconnection: fancy hotel, Michelin-starred dinners, hot air balloon ride, landed squarely on my shoulders. Then there was the down payment on her dream studio, a dilapidated warehouse she swore would be the next Soho. I drained my savings, rationalizing it as an investment in her future, in our future. The studio never materialized, of course. Just more debt and empty promises. The signs were always there, weren't they? The constant shopping sprees followed by tearful apologies. The late-night texts from friends whose names I didn't recognize. The subtle digs at my boring job, always couched in compliments about my stability. And the gaslighting. Oh, the gaslighting. "You're imagining things," she'd say, her eyes wide with innocence. "I would never do anything to hurt you." I wanted to believe her, desperately. Now, I just see a carefully constructed web of deceit, designed to keep me compliant and under control. A highlight reel of red flags I willingly ignored. The audacity of it all still boggles my mind. She blocked me, branding me as controlling, cutting off all communication. Yet, she felt entitled to use my Amazon account, my money, to feather her nest. It wasn't just a financial betrayal. It was a complete disregard for my feelings, my boundaries, my very existence. It was like a punch to the gut, followed by a swift kick to the groin. This wasn't some innocent mistake. It was a calculated act of entitlement, a final, devastating confirmation of her true character. I finally understood what Mark and Dave had been trying to tell me all along. "So, let me get this straight," Mark said over beers that night. "She called you controlling, then steals your Amazon password to furnish her new love nest? Dude, that's some next-level sociopath shit." Dave nodded, taking a long swig. Classic HB7 behavior. High beta orbiters are paying for her lifestyle upgrade as we speak. You dodged a bullet, man. A goddamn ICBM. I winced. The casual misogyny stung, even though a part of me knew they were right. "Easy, guys," I said, trying to sound more offended than I actually felt. "She's still a human being." Mark snorted. "Yeah, a human being with a black belt in emotional manipulation." That night, I fell down the rabbit hole. Red pill forums, MGOW manifestos, the whole shebang. It was a disturbing world, filled with bitterness and cynicism, but it resonated. Sarah's behavior, her entitlement, her manipulation, it all fit a pattern, a script I hadn't been aware of. Anger surged through me, hot and raw. Not just at Sarah, but at myself, for being so blind, so naive. But beneath the anger, a strange sense of liberation began to bloom. I was finally seeing things clearly, shedding the illusions I'd clung to for so long. The matrix had been broken. The next day, I opened my bank statements, braced for impact. It was worse than I imagined. The borrowed credit card had racked up thousands in debt. That investment in her art career was a black hole of Etsy fees and craft fair booths. The Napa trip alone could have funded a down payment on a condo. The sheer scale of the financial exploitation hit me like a physical blow. Resentment simmered, hardening into resolve. I wouldn't let her get away with this. I wouldn't be a victim. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about principle. It wasn't just the money, though. There was the professional damage. The late nights spent consoling her instead of networking. The weekends dedicated to her art shows when I should have been honing my skills. The promotions I didn't pursue because she needed me to be her rock. Those opportunities were gone, lost to the vortex of her needs. I couldn't help but wonder where I'd be if I'd prioritized myself, my own ambitions. A silent, simmering regret began to take root. A bitter counterpoint to my newfound resolve. I could have been so much further ahead. Using a burner account, I peeked at her Instagram. There she was, posing in her new apartment, surrounded by the throw pillows I'd intercepted. The caption read, "Starting fresh. So grateful for the amazing friends who helped me through a difficult time." The hypocrisy was breathtaking. She was painting herself as the victim, rewriting history to fit her narrative. The anger flared anew, hotter and more focused. This wasn't just about money or career setbacks. It was about her blatant dishonesty, her complete lack of remorse. The temptation to expose her, to unleash a torrent of righteous fury on her carefully curated online persona, was almost overwhelming. But I resisted. Engaging in public drama would only validate her victim narrative, dragging me down to her level. Instead, I focused on myself. I doubled down at work, started hitting the gym again, and reconnected with old friends. I channeled my anger into productive pursuits, determined to rebuild my life, brick by brick. Let her have her fleeting moments of social media validation. I was playing the long game. A few weeks later, I ran into Lisa, a mutual acquaintance, at a coffee shop. After the usual pleasantries, she leaned in conspiratorially. "So, how are you doing after you know?" I shrugged, playing it cool. "Fine, actually. Better than ever." Lisa lowered her voice. "I heard things aren't going so well with her new boyfriend. Apparently, he's not as generous as you were." A small smile played on her lips. "Karma's a bitch, right?" It was a small validation. A subtle sign that the universe might, just might, be balancing the scales. I never heard from Sarah directly about the return package. No angry texts, no tearful phone calls, nothing. It was as if the $300 worth of throw pillows simply vanished into thin air. Her silence spoke volumes. It confirmed her lack of accountability, her inability to confront the consequences of her actions. She'd rather pretend the incident never happened, maintain her carefully constructed facade, than acknowledge her own wrongdoing. It was pathetic, really. Looking back, I can see the red flags waving frantically, like desperate castaways on a sinking ship. Her constant need for validation, her financial irresponsibility, her emotional volatility, they were all warning signs I chose to ignore, blinded by infatuation and a misguided sense of chivalry. I'll never make that mistake again. I understand now that quirky doesn't excuse toxic behavior, and independent doesn't mean financially dependent. I've learned to trust my gut, to prioritize my own well-being, and to recognize the subtle manipulations that women like Sarah excel at. The lesson was painful, but invaluable. These days, my focus is laser-sharp: career goals, fitness, and a solid network of male friends who understand the game. I'm not actively seeking a relationship. In fact, the thought of committing to another woman fills me with a cold dread. Maybe that will change someday. Maybe it won't. But for now, I'm content with my own company, with the freedom to pursue my ambitions without the constant drain of emotional and financial demands. I'm building a life on my own terms, a life that can't be compromised by anyone else's needs or manipulations. Do I hate Sarah? No. I pity her. She's trapped in a cycle of seeking validation and exploiting others. a cycle she probably doesn't even realize she's in. The pain she inflicted was real, and the scars will likely linger for a while. But I refuse to let that pain define me. I've emerged from the wreckage stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. And that, ultimately, is the greatest revenge of all. The return to sender note wasn't just for her. It was for the naive version of myself who allowed it all to happen.